Hello, everyone, and welcome to the ReluTech Podcast. I'm very excited today to have our founder with us, Mark Metz. We have an interesting format today. In the past, we typically will do a kind of longer form conversation going through one topic. Today, we wanted to break it down a little bit. We've been working on a tool recently that's been helping us with how we interact with our customers, how we help them really early in their migrations, and make sure that all the various go-to-markets that ReluTech has are accessible before different kinds of obstacles get in the way. So without further ado, I wanted to first open the floor to Mark. For anyone who is watching, if you're in this space, you might already be familiar with him. He's been around the cloud space for a little while, but I wanted him to introduce himself, his background, and more importantly, the background with ReluTech that has led us to MIQ, our newest tool. So welcome, Mark. Let everyone know a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Chris. Happy to be here on this podcast. So I'm embarrassed to say how long I've been in this industry. It's been so long since some of the systems that I first sold, probably people listening to this have probably never even heard of, from AS400s and System 36s and that kind of thing. But my background led to me starting a company called Canvas Systems, which became arguably the world's largest reseller of refurbished IT equipment. And in that space, over the next 10 years, my team really became experts at understanding the hardware that is in data centers, how to maintain it, what to do with it when it's done, leasing it, erasing sensitive data. And after that, and after the company was sold, we started a company called ReluTech Technologies. ReluTech Technologies then was really the start of a company called ReluTech Cloud also, which was a premier AWS business partner. And early on in those days, and I think that was around the 2013 timeframe, we realized that there were all these customers that AWS was targeting that were trying to get out of legacy data centers and move to the cloud. And we quickly saw that we could solve a lot of those obstacles, Chris, that every other partner couldn't deal with.
Everyone was focused on the future. No one was thinking about the past.
Yeah, they were all, and we were too, with ReluTech Cloud, we were concentrated on migrating applications. But applications sit on hardware, and that hardware sits in data centers, and those data centers are run by people.
And yeah, it's like you have some bags you're carrying, right? And you suddenly start trying to run, and you realize how heavy those bags are. You got to drop them.
Yeah, you got to figure out, what do we do with this? So there were two barriers that the typical partner that was in that AWS and cloud ecosystem they just didn't deal with, which was, wow, what do we do with this hardware? And do we have the people that can actually do this migration? Instead of your legacy AS400 administrators and Windows administrators and programmers and your typical IT staff, they've never done a cloud migration.
It's a huge learning curve.
Yeah.
New tools, it's kind of new. The thing is, a lot of it conceptually might sit on a similar realm, but there's a curve, right? They're going to have to make sure that the people who are there have a chance to either ramp up or figure out where they can continue to work in that administrative space. But it's a huge transition, and you're going to need help.
Yeah, so we quickly kind of rallied around this idea that ReluTech could really break down these barriers of a cloud migration. And we even took a mascot of the Ram, because he's great at breaking down those barriers. I'm glad to see your little Ram here on our podcast, Chris.
He's shown up recently since they gave me a new one. I think the other one got lost ramming his head into something.
Good. But that Ram kind of symbolizes what our whole business model is at ReluTech, which is breaking down those barriers of a cloud migration. It's like, if you've ever been you've owned a house maybe, and you decide to move to an apartment and rent. Well, that can be an expensive proposition if it takes you 24 months to move all your stuff out of your house into your apartment, because you're now paying for two places for your stuff.
Yeah. How long is it going to take to close? When you do that, will you have to make repairs? And is there a timeline on that?
Exactly. And that's kind of the analogy I like to think about in these cloud migrations, that everybody says, ooh, that would be great. And it would be great to run that application in the cloud. It's cheaper, it's faster, it's more secure, it's more scalable. However, to do that, you have to migrate, and that migration sometimes takes months, if not years. And during that time frame, you're paying for your data center, you're paying to maintain all those assets in the data center, and you're paying for all those people that continue to run those assets, while you're also paying for cloud resources, cloud talent, cloud software, and migration. And a lot of companies, including AWS, have called this the migration bubble or the double bubble. And that's kind of those costs that are now doubled because you're paying for two different data centers, one in the cloud and one on-prem.
But you're not there yet. So you unfortunately are now running on two treadmills. It's not easy.
No. And that's what our business model has been. And we developed this tool that you briefly talked about early called MIQ, which is Migration IQ. It's about how do you identify what those barriers are, how big are those barriers, and how much can we save a customer by knocking down those barriers. And it starts with looking at what you have in your data center. How many servers, storage devices, network devices, tape drives, and all those other things that you're going to have to figure out what to do with them. And the other thing that sometimes companies forget about is you're also going to have to figure out, well, we're still using those for the next 2 years while we're migrating. They have to be maintained either by an OEM or a third-party maintenance company like ReluTech. Then
what happens if you're on a 12-month migration, month 11, you have a 1-year renewal coming up? What then?
Yeah, that's a big problem, Chris. And with these renewals, it's not even that simple. Sometimes customers have hundreds of these contracts from lots of different OEMs, and those contracts expire at different times, and they have to renew those contracts in order to keep those assets running.
And they're trying to plan a migration, and they can't make any sense of it. What's the best time? I don't know. Never. It's hard.
Yeah, it's hard. So some companies have tried to, hey, let's plan our migration around these renewal cycles.
Fool's errand.
Hard. It's hard to do. It's hard to do. Sometimes I've seen that successful when it's maybe they got to pay a new 10-year lease on a data center and they know they have to be out within 18 months. But all those other contracts that might be maintenance contracts, lease contracts, that becomes complicated. And we can help figure that out for customers. I guess that's what the purpose of this MIQ is to identify those barriers, the size of them, and how we can help alleviate some of those double bubble or migration bubble costs that occur over that 12, 18, 24, 30-month migration period that companies are going to have to deal with.
Yeah. It's really tricky. There's a few different ways that we eliminate these barriers. As we get into the MIQ tool, we'll focus a bit more on the various kind of go-to-markets this has, but the main focus will typically be our purchase lease back motion, our hardware maintenance offerings, our VMware support offerings, as well as our staffing offerings, because those play a big part in how we interact with migrations and prevent costly delays. As we progress further in this series, we're going to dig deeper into each of these and how, in kind of summation, they're able to make huge financial impacts on a migration. So, Mark, I'm super happy to have you on. I can't wait for the next episode of the series.
Yeah, Chris, you hit on the main points there that we're going to probably cover, I'm sure, in these next episodes. But and you forgot one other point that customers have to deal with. It's not just how do we save money during this time frame, and we'll talk about that, and supporting the hardware or supporting VMware. It's what do I do with this stuff when I'm done?
Yes. Yeah, not only now that I've saved all this money, how can I just wash my hands of this whole experience, right?
I want to be done with these things. And not only that,
we kind of bake it into our process. We make sure that the end is fully baked out, and we make sure that we can pitch it that way from the jump.
Yeah, there's 2 points to that when you're done with that migration and you're ready to unplug that data center, so to speak, and you have all these assets, it'd be nice to have that, magic wand that you could wave and they all just disappear.
You want it to be like the Fresh Prince when he's walking out of the empty house and he can just turn off the lights, right? That's it.
Yeah.
It's that simple. Not all the moving couches and
For sure. But, the two issues that crop up are one is companies have sensitive data on these hard drives. Those hard drives are all over the place in servers and storage devices, sometimes even in printers that might store additional information that is sensitive and needs to be wiped before a product can be resold or recycled. Then the second part is that recycling aspect. The last thing a company wants, I think, is to find out that all the assets from their data center were tossed into a landfill and or are being burned, in some faraway country for precious.
You don't want a
metals.
news report seeing, one of your old chassis wrapped around a sea turtle's neck. So you want to make sure this is disposed of properly.
That's an even better way to say it, Chris.
I've watched too many things about all the little can spirals, and I'm like, we're cutting these from now on.
So, saving money is important, but saving the environment and saving my sensitive data from, the hackers and et cetera is also important. And we cover both of those issues. So I'm excited to talk about this further in your next episodes.
Yeah, we have a lot of interesting calculations in here, and we're going to dig into all of them. So looking forward to it.
Thank you, Chris.